All right, let's go ahead and talk about methods, more specifically, procedures. So this chapter is all about procedures. The next chapter is going to be about functions. And got a really good example here called the happy song. Now let's go ahead and start NetBeans up. And in the happy song, we're going to create a really simple method, and we're going to call it. And let's just go ahead and start building it. New project, Java application, next. I'm going to call it happy song or happy verse. Yeah, let's call it happy song. I'm putting it on the desktop, getting rid of that package statement. Let's look at the PDF while this thing is coming up. So basically, we're supposed to develop a method called happy verse. And you see from the PDF that we're going to call this method several times. We're going to pass two arguments. Remember, what's in the parenthesis in the method definition is referred to as a parameter. And what you pass to it is referred to as an argument. I'll identify those parts of the code in just a minute. So let's just start where we always start and get rid of the non-essential comments and align the curly brackets. Then we're going to go ahead and start building the application according to spec. So I'm going to be depending on you to go up there and put in the general comments. Please don't forget that. If you do, it will be points off. So let's just start writing this program right away. Now, this particular program, the way it works is we really should create the method first before we call it. It looks bad. You get a squiggly if you don't. So where do you put the method? We're going to have to create the method definition outside the body of main. So let's go ahead and create our method definition on here. So let's be public, static, void, and we'll call it happy verse. And we're going to have, we're going to create two parameters, two string parameters. Call the first one action, and the second one sound. It'll make sense in just a minute. And let's put the opening and closing curly brackets. And now we're ready to go ahead and define. It's going to be a whole bunch of S outs. So we'll do S out. And in here we'll say if you're happy and you know it, comma, space, don't forget that little space right there. Then we're going to go ahead and, it's going to say, clap your hands. That's the action part. And then it would be clap, clap, which would be the sound part. Then to live life dangerously, I'm going to go ahead and repeat that again because that's the way the song goes. You basically say this 2 times. And then the third line, I'm going to go ahead and copy it again and then edit it. Because it says if you're happy and you know it, then we're going to go ahead and continue with the longer string. We're supposed to say, then your face will surely show it. Period, right? No, there's no periods here, right? Because it's a song, it's a verse. And I'm going to go ahead and press enter right here. And look what happens when I do that. It puts in the plus sign for me. Okay, so that's what, let the editor help you do this kind of stuff. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in that line again. It's still in memory. And then lastly, I'm going to print the empty string. So the empty string is simply the double quotes by itself. You don't put a little space in there. Now, how else could we do this? If you wanted to, you could go ahead and put in a backslash n. And so the backslash n serves the same function as this. Okay, so if I run this, what's going to happen? Nothing, because there's nothing inside of main. It hasn't been called yet. So far what we've done, this is referred to as a method definition. This is, according to our book, called a procedure because it does not return anything. It is void. So it's public static, meaning that it's not associated with an object. Public meaning that it's available to the outside world or to other files and programs. And it's defined to have 2 parameter variables. So when I call the method inside of main, I must pass it 2 parameters. Okay, so we're going to call the happy verse one time. And I'm going to go ahead and say, clap your hands. Space, don't forget that. And the second argument will be clap, clap. Okay. And this clap, clap is going to be a string. And then we just terminate the line. All right? Easy enough, right? So let's call this again. And we're going to go ahead and say stomp your feet. And then we're going to pass stomp, stomp, which would be in parentheses. Would be the easier way to do this. And we only got one more call left. Another happy verse. And this time, I'm going to do it once with the escape, without the escape codes, and once with, so we can talk about the escape codes in more detail. So we're going to say shout, hooray, okay, comma, and then we're going to put that second string in parentheses. Say hooray, exclamation point, hooray again. All right, so let's go ahead and run it and see what we got. So let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what the output says. So it says, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, clap, clap. That looks good so far. Is this coming out right? Let's see now. Shout hooray. Is that coming out? Well, yeah, the stomp your feet and then the hooray. Yeah. Okay, so right here on the third call where I pass it shout hooray, the requirement is that hooray be in parentheses. No, be double quotes, excuse me. So the problem here is that if I put in a double quotes here, it's going to get confused and it's going to think that I'm trying to terminate the string. So the solution to this is to use an escape code. So to escape codes, you're very familiar with the backslash n. So what we want to do is we want to do backslash double quotes. That starts it. And then we're going to, guess what? We're going to have to do that same madness again, backslash double quotes again, right after the word hooray, so that when we run this one more time, we see now that hooray is in double quotes. Okay, pretty easy idea, but I think that the complication is that we have to use escape codes. I recommend that you go ahead and run it without the escape codes first, and then add them. The other thing that I would probably recommend here is if you realize that the method definition needs to appear outside of main but inside the class. So if you want, you could, comment the method out. You would say end happy verse method. And then over here, end class happy song. That's just a way of denoting that you understand the structure of your Java program. It's very well structured. Okay, so if you put stuff in a method, none of the stuff in that method is going to execute unless you call it. So what we have here on lines 5, 6, and 7, these are called, we're calling the method. This is the method definition over here on line 10. The first line is referred to as the method signature. And this particular method is defined to have 2 parameter variables. They're called parameter variables because the parameter which they're used is within this method. So when we call a method, we simply reiterate the name of the method, and we must pass it arguments, and those arguments must agree in terms of 3 things. They must agree in terms of number, sequence, and type. So if there's 2, you pass 2, right? That's number. Sequence means that if you have a string followed by a double followed by a boolean, you have to pass a string, double boolean. So number, sequence, type, and of course the last 2 are kind of related, is that if the parameter variables call for a double, you must pass it a double. You can't pass it a string. If you do, you're going to get an error message. Now sometimes things get messed up, like right here, I'm receiving 2 strings. I mean, let's say that it was receiving last name and first name, and I'm going to build a sentence out of this. Dear Mr. Benavides. Well, if I switch them out, then it's going to say, Dear Mr. Bob, which is going to sound kind of weird, right? So even though I didn't get an error message, you get like a logical problem. So you got to pay attention to the number, sequence, type thing. But above all, you got to make sure that everything makes sense. Okay. Well, that's all I have to say about this particular. It was fairly simple. It's just a very important idea about methods. Remember, methods perform an action. And we're going to be saying a lot more about methods in the near future when we talk about object-oriented programming.